Bangden Zawe Lama Rinpoche Dage Chiwo Pede Tenju La Kadrin Jimbo Goni Jisun Kuzo Doje Nodro Zando Zo Zanje Jodan Zoje Jonam Lai Chanjo Badu Dani Japsun Dage Jinzo Jibe Sonam Jin Rola Benje Sanje Drupa Shoi Sanje Jodan Zoje Jonam Lai Chanjo Badu Dani Japsun Jin Dage Jinzo Jibe Sonam Rola Benje Sanje Drupa Shoi Sanje Jodan Zoje Jonam Lai Chanjo Badu Dani Dage Jinzo Jibe Sonam Jin Rola Sanje Drupa Shoi Simje Damje Dewa Dan Dewe Jodan Demba Joje Dona Jin Jodan Drawa Joje Dona Mebe Dewa Damba Min Drawa Joje Nirin Jadan Nidan Drawa Tanyo Jimbola Neba Joje. So this morning we were talking about the more theoretical side. How does meditation work? But we're particularly focusing on reducing stress and increasing focus and clarity and happiness, of course, well-being and happiness. Of course, there's much more to it in terms of the path of meditation, but this is the sort of entry point in terms of bringing it more into our lives and stabilizing our minds. The actual technique I'd like to now help you with. There are many techniques, of course. The most popular one, traditional, and everyone learns, is with the breathing. It's good to learn that one, and some of you might be new and you'll be hearing this for the first time. Some of you will have heard this many times and practiced it many times, but each time you hear the instruction it goes deeper. So it's always good to hear again and to learn more and more. So basically one is sitting in a good posture and one is focusing on the breathing. It sounds very simple, but it's not. The reason it's not simple is because the mind wanders. But we need to really have the right attitude about that. Because for many people, they get very frustrated. They're sitting down trying to focus on their breathing, and then within seconds the mind is wandering, and then they beat themselves up about that. They feel like a failure. Or maybe it doesn't go as far as thoughts of, I'm a failure. Maybe it's more subtle, in that there's a little tightening inside. Oh, I've blown it. I've messed up. And I've got to get back on the horse. You naughty boy or you naughty girl, get back. There's that kind of feeling inside. And this is really because people are still maybe unconsciously stuck in that myth around meditation means no thoughts. That's the myth, the idea that you're supposed to have nothing going on. But really, I hope I've clarified that this morning, that it's not about that. We're not trying to go blank or empty. Thoughts are not the enemy. What we're trying to do is stabilize ourselves so that we're aware. We're aware of the thoughts. We're not in the thoughts. We're aware of the thoughts. So there's that objectivity. And that's done at this stage through coming back to the breath. So you just come back to the breath. What people maybe don't realize is that it's all called mindfulness. Within the Buddhist teachings they talk about this as mindfulness. But what people maybe don't realize is that there are 3 phases in that mindfulness, or 3 modes. One is when we're with the breath. Now everybody understands that one. That's the point, yeah? We're focusing on the breath. We're not wrapped up in our thoughts. We're just being present. We're connected to the breath. That's one. People maybe don't know about the other 2. The second one is you're with your breath, and then your mind wanders. Now, the really interesting thing is that we don't see that happening. It's not that we're with the breath and then we see the mind going for a walk. It's very different. Actually, we're with the breath and then we suddenly wake up in our thoughts somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? We can go on a long chain of thinking and suddenly we realize, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating. That is called noticing. And that's the second phase of the mindfulness. The second aspect, noticing. So you recognize that your mind was wandering. You notice. Now, for many people, they, as I mentioned before, that they feel they've failed. They feel that moment is a moment of failure. You know, oh, my mind was wandering, I've got it wrong, I've blown it, I've messed up. Get back to the breath. What they don't realize is that it's a moment of success because you've generated awareness. It's good. So having that light touch of, what's the word? Not punishing yourself, but instead almost joy. A very important component of being mindful is joy. Not this kind of grim duty, you're a bad person type situation, but joy. So you joyfully notice that your mind got lost, and now you found it again. You found what you lost. You lost your diamond ring, and now you found it. It's like that. You'd feel great, wouldn't you? Why would you think, oh, I'm so terrible, I'm always losing rings, I'm dreadful, I should be locked in prison? Instead, just great, you found your diamond ring. So you found your awareness again. So it's a good moment. So that's phase 2, noticing. Phase 3 is returning. You're gently and compassionately and in a relaxed way just bouncing back to the breath, returning back to the breath. And then the same thing happens again. The mind wanders, and actually the session is just a constant process of those 3 things. Sometimes you're with the breath, sometimes you're noticing that your mind got lost, and then you're returning. And you just do that as much as you can, and you'll get better and better at it. If you understand this, it completely revolutionizes your practice. Because for many people their practice is so tough, frustrating. Like when they sit down to meditate, they feel they have to strap on a suit of armour because they're going into battle with their own mind, or they have to get the guns out to shoot down the thoughts, and that's very tense. It's like being a soldier constantly waiting for the enemy, and people, you know, they are having a war inside. It's an internal war. On the other hand, if you understand this point about these 3 modes of mindfulness, it totally changes the whole situation, because you don't feel that you've made a mistake when your mind has wandered. You don't feel that was wrong. It's just part of the process. I mean, we are coming back to the breath. Well, you've got to have somewhere to come back from. So the wandering mind was the aid to your noticing and returning. So your thoughts are not your enemy. They're not your enemy, they're your friend. That doesn't mean that we should just sit there daydreaming the whole time. We should try to apply these 3 modes of mindfulness. But it just means that you have a much more forgiving attitude towards your thoughts. And this is the root of compassion. They always talk about being compassionate towards oneself. This is what is meant by it, is that you're not fighting your mind. You're not blocking, you're not elaborating, you're just letting it be, and you're not seeing it as a problem. Your thoughts and emotions or whatever is going on are not enemies, they're not problems. You're just working with them by noticing and returning. So that is compassion. Why? Why is it compassion? Well, let's think about compassion. I'm going to talk more deeply about compassion this afternoon, but just at this stage, in terms of the technique, I want to introduce the topic. What is compassion? It's about unconditional love, isn't it? What is unconditional love? If you love somebody unconditionally, that means you love them just the way they are. You don't want to change them. You don't have any idea they should be different. They are just perfect how they are. That's unconditional love. Now, can we do that to our thoughts? Because normally we don't. What do we normally do to our thoughts? Normally we either push them away or we change them. That's not love. That's aggression. Push away or change. There's two things we do with our thoughts. We either push it down, thought or emotion. When I say thought, I mean anything that happens in the mind. We either push it down, or we chase it and elaborate it, making it into 2 thoughts, or 3 thoughts, or 4 thoughts. We're kind of developing it. Both of those are acts of aggression. Pushing down, obviously, is an act of aggression, but also going with the thought and making it more is a kind of subtle aggression, because you're saying, this thought is not good enough like that, I need 2 of them. It's like if somebody gave you a cake and you insisted that they then put candles on top and sparklers and decorated the plate. You're saying it's not enough. This cake, I need more. I need a bigger cake. That's what we do with our thoughts. A thought arises, and we want more. We change it into another thought. We take it on a journey. We can't just let it be its own thing. We can't just let it be in its own way. So this practice is about letting it be just like it is. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to make it more. It's just fine the way it is, and you just leave it alone. The kindest thing you can do for somebody is just let them be who they are. Can we do that to our thoughts? Just let it be what it is. Don't have to chase it, don't have to push it. Just let it be. Come back to the breath. Don't even label it. Some meditation teachers tell you to label your thoughts. I don't think that's such a great idea, because you're just judging, adding. Just let it be. You don't need to label it. You don't need to do anything to it. It's fine the way it is. Just come back. Now, for a beginner, and I emphasize again, the word beginner is a huge category of many years of training. For a beginner, we do need that breath or something to anchor ourselves. Later on, people can start letting go of that and just being present, but using the breath is a very good thing, because then you have something to make sure you're not getting stuck in the thought, pushing it away, elaborating it. You've got somewhere else to go. I remember Mingyur Rinpoche said, the mind is like a monkey. Give the monkey some work to do. Make it watch the breath. It sounds like a kind of comical example, but it's actually based on the Buddha's sutra. And the sutra means the words of the Buddha. The Buddha talks about how our consciousness is like a monkey living in an empty building, and the building has 5 windows. Do you know what that means? It's our body with the 5 senses. So if you were standing outside this, supposing you are standing and you see this house, and it's got 5 windows, or 4 windows and a door. Inside the house is a monkey. The monkey is constantly looking out of the windows. And you, as the observer, might look at that and think there's 5 monkeys, because his face appears so quickly from window to window. But actually, it's one monkey. He's just jumping around. So the point here is that the monkey is the consciousness and the windows are the senses, and that's what our mind does. It's always busy with the senses, flitting from what we hear to what we see to what we think. There are 6 senses. The 6th one is the mind, and the objects of the mind are thoughts. The mind is the monkey is constantly jumping around. What do you do in meditation? You get the monkey to look out of just one of those windows. So the monkey is observing the breath. He's staying with one window instead of jumping around. That's the first stage of meditation training. Let the monkey relax. But give the monkey a job, because the monkey wants something to do, so get it to watch the breath. So it's very skillful. But very important that we all remember these essentially very good instructions around not fighting the thoughts, but just noticing and returning. Are there any questions about that? We will try it in a minute, but do you get the idea, first of all, at least conceptually?
Earlier you spoke about people can be meditating for a while, but is there stagnation in meditation? Or are you going to sort of get to that later on? Or
Stagnation.
Well, meditating, it's not that focused.
You say what people practice for a while and forget why they practice.
Yeah.
Sort of just going around in circles.
Yeah. So the talk I gave before the break hopefully should help with that. because in that we're looking at the benefits of meditation and really inspiring ourselves, because you start thinking, wow, this stuff works and I can actually create happiness in my mind and body. So you're thinking about what meditation is and how it works, and that helps you to energize your practice. Does that make sense? Okay. There's more. I can talk more about that later this afternoon as well. Okay. Anything else? Yeah?
There's two questions.
Sure.
When you were speaking about oxytocin,
Yeah?
you said that if you get up in the morning
Yeah.
and you have most cortisol
Yeah.
and you
Bring the
meditate-
levels down.
Yes, when the cortisol levels are
Mhm.
down, then you meditate and that increases your oxytocin. So we meditate 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah?
How long does that oxytocin actually last in your? The question is, do we have to be meditating constantly throughout the day?
Yeah, my medical students are talking about this in the university. They talk, well, they've got a half-life or something they keep talking about. They're trying to measure the half-life of this and that, and they're going to start measuring their oxytocin levels. I don't know if we need to be too precise about that, because it is different for everybody. And actually, the key point is you meditate every morning, but then you do little micro moments of meditation every 20 or 30 minutes throughout the day.
That's quite onerous, especially if
No.
you're like a full day.
No. I'm glad you said that, because it's not. Because when I say micro moments of meditation, I don't mean you have to go and sit down and do a session. I mean you can be busy, but you generate awareness while you're working. Like I said this morning, I'm in an airport queue and I feel the ground under my feet. That's a micro moment. You can be behind a desk. You can be engaging with people. You can be in a meeting. I do it when I'm teaching. So I'm teaching, I'm talking, I'm having to think, and I'm doing it at the same time. It's very easy.
You must be very good.
No, it's very easy, because it's just awareness. What we don't realise is that it's much simpler than we thought. We tend to think it must be incredibly complicated, so we miss what's right in front of our nose. It's like they say a human being can't see their own nose until they look in the mirror. That's what the teachers are for. They're a mirror of our nose. But we have our own nose so close to our face. It is so simple. That's what we need to understand. But I am going to talk about that today, about how to do those moments in daily life. And we're going to start with physical actions and sounds. I'll be explaining how to do it, so you'll see how easy it is.
And the second question is, isn't there a pill?
Isn't what?
A pill. Oxytocin, you can get it in a pill.
If there were, it would be.
Sure.
If there were, it would be very bad, because the more you get it from a pill, the more you would lose your own ability to create it, because the body would become lazy. So you'd actually become dependent on the pill, and you would not, in the same way that people only know how to relax when they drink alcohol. They lose their own ability to relax, because it's too easy. From drinking a glass of wine, you relax, your body loses its own knowledge of how to do it. So that's what's meant by renunciation in Buddhism. Renunciation doesn't mean giving up all the fun things, it means reclaiming your power.
Pill is your dharma.
Sorry?
The pill is your dharma.
Dharma is the pill, but don't treat it like a pill, because then it's sort of, like a quick fix. See it as an ongoing course of treatment. Yes?
Can you please elaborate the difference between awareness and concentration in context of anapanasati? Because ultimately you can actually view the focusing on the breath, awareness or concentration on the breath is certainly a form of distraction, if I may say. So can you please elaborate just to have further clarity on whether we should apply more awareness or concentration when we're actually practicing?
Well, I've defined it as three things, the three aspects. Sometimes you're with the breath, sometimes you're noticing that you got lost, and sometimes you're coming back. Those three practices are awareness. That's what you have to do, nothing else. So don't imagine there's something else than that at this stage anyway. This is the training. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. You just lift the weights. You know what you have to do, you just do it. So these are the 3 things to do.
But I'm talking about in terms of like the power you give it, because sometimes when you're concentrating, it's like you have no more awareness of what's happening around you. But now
Okay.
and the parasites must be applied that okay, they still the external that I should take into consideration.
Yeah, you don't want to concentrate too hard so that everything blacks out. Like sort of going into such a rigid concentration that everything else disappears. It's more that you are, okay, you see this recording device in front of me on the table. I need to be aware of that, but I also need to be aware of the table it's on. If I'm so focused on that the table disappears, I'm too tense, and this will not help. So don't be too rigid or too tense, be super relaxed, but at the same time aware. Okay. Anything else? Okay, well I think we should try the practice. So it's important to sit in a good posture, and there's 2 things I want to say about that. One, there's many ways to sit, cross-legged, on a chair, there's variations, but the 2 most important things, and one of them is quite controversial, is the non-controversial one is have a straight back. That's important, but the controversial one is have your eyes open. The reason it's controversial is because most people prefer to have their eyes closed when they meditate, but it's not a good idea. The reason it's not a good idea is because if you close your eyes to meditate, you're going to find it much harder to then mix your practice with daily life, because you are getting dependent on the dark. You close your eyes, it's dark, yeah? It's kind of easier to start with, but then your whole notion of meditation is associated with darkness. So then it's much harder to bring the meditation into your everyday activities, because you only associate it with being cut off from the world. And if you close your eyes to meditate, you're kind of telling yourself the world is the enemy of my meditation. I must block it out. We don't want to go down that road, do we? We want to be integrating. So having the eyes open is really important. Also, it means that you are learning to be present without altering anything. If you close your eyes, you're altering reality. We want to just open to this moment without shutting anything down, so just be present. So having your eyes open means to look straight ahead, but not at the pillar or whatever's in front of you, but more into the space in front of you. If you want, you can slightly angle the gaze downwards. That's also okay. But the main thing is you're not closing down. How does that feel for you? Do you have any questions about that? Because I know many people struggle with this. Well, that's great. You all seem very, what's the word? Pliable or compliant? Compliant. Yes?
I'm a beginner, a 2 or 3 year meditation beginner, and I find with my eyes open the's more distraction.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, I understand. It's just, I find it harder, I guess.
That's the whole point. If you go to the if you go to the gym, don't you want to have weights on the weightlifting machine? You don't want to just pull the bar down with no weights. You want it to be hard. Not hard in a horrible way, but challenging, training. And yes, it's more distracting at first with the eyes open, but eventually that changes. It becomes more natural, more easy. Most people here who are nodding, who've done it for a while, and people find it much easier in the end, because you're not trying to go into a kind of dark place within yourself. If you close your eyes, you don't develop much mental clarity. You develop mental dullness and ignorance. Clarity is from... Actually, there's many reasons for this. The two or three I've given you are just kind of the outer reasons, but there are inner reasons as well, to do with the inner energies of the body. In Vajrayana Buddhism, they say that our body has a very complex inner system of energies called channels, and the 2 wisdom channels emerge at the eyes. So closing your eyes is closing the wisdom channels. So better to keep them open. And the bottom line is, if you look at any statue of the Buddha, have you ever seen one with its eyes shut? So there must be a hint there. Anything else? Let's try this now. So sit in a good posture. I'll talk you through it quickly. If you're sitting on the chair, sit up nice and straight with your feet planted flat on the ground, parallel. If you're sitting on the floor, sit cross-legged like I am. Try and have your knees down on the floor if you can, but if that's painful, have them up in the air, whatever works for you. But you're basically cross-legged. Your back is straight. The way to achieve a straight back is to have a cushion under the back half of your bottom so that your pelvis is tilted forward off the edge of the cushion. If you're on a chair, it's quite good at home. I mean, here you just sit how you sit, but at home you could get a cushion and place it behind the back of your spine so that the base of your spine is slightly supported. Your back is straight, your hands are right above the left, palms on top, right on the left, thumbs touching, resting in your lap, or you could have your hands palms down on your knees, whatever suits you better. Your neck is nice and lengthened. Lengthen your neck, the back of your neck I mean. You lengthen the back of your neck and you just tuck your chin in slightly, like you're making a double chin, just tucking your chin in. Your face is very relaxed. Teeth and lips are nice and loose. They're not held together, they're not hanging open. Slight space. The end of your tongue is up, touching behind the top row of teeth. Your eyes are open, but looking into the space in front of you. Not looking at the things, but just looking into space, either straight ahead or angled slightly downwards, whichever feels comfortable for you. Okay. The session has a few stages. Stage 1 is generate compassion. Generate the wish to benefit all beings. Dedicate your practice to the liberation of all. So just create those thoughts or wishes or prayers first of all. Now just let your attention relax with the body. Be aware of how your body is in contact with the floor or the chair. Feel the chair or the floor underneath you. Be aware of your shoulders. Let the attention travel down the arms into the hands and fingers. Notice that resting sensation as your hands rest in your lap or on your knees. Notice the stillness of your body. Now notice that within the stillness there is a subtle movement. That is the movement of your stomach or your chest as it comes in and out with each breath. You're not forcing the breath, it's just happening. The body isn't pumping the breath isn't pumping the body. They're just an interdependent, natural occurrence or happening. Now notice the air travelling into your nose and then down and then up and out again. If your nose is blocked, then breathe through your mouth. But notice the movement of the air. Don't change it, don't deepen it, just leave it alone and notice it. Let's bring some more precision. Try to focus on the air travelling in and out of the end of your nostrils. You feel it at the edge of your nose, the air brushing against the skin. If you need to breathe through your mouth, then feel the air travelling across your lower lip. Now just work with that connection, the focus, and when your mind wanders, keep returning. Remember the three phases. You're with the breath, or you're noticing the wandering, or you're returning. So let's work on that for a few minutes. Now to conclude the session, focus again on your body. And the last step is to dedicate your practice to all beings. May oneself and all beings be liberated. Just create that prayer or that wish or intention. So there are some useful pieces of advice to remember. One of them is try not to judge your practice too much. Don't do a session and then think, did it work, did it not work, was it good, was it bad? Just do it. It's just exercise. It's like when you go swimming or to the gym, you don't start questioning whether you did it well or not, you just did it. It's more that you just try and do this regularly and let go of expectation and let go of pushing for results. That's very hard for us because we live in a society where it's all about fast results. Everything's got to be quick. Go to an ATM machine and put your card in and money flies out. I mean, it's that quick. You used to have to put in a request for money and wait weeks for it. Now it just turns up. Or you go to McDonald's and the burger's ready in 20 seconds or whatever. You know, it's this fast society. So we tend to bring that fast energy to practice and we think, well, when's it going to work? When am I going to get something from this? That doesn't make sense because it's just you growing as a person. There's no end to that. It's not when have I grown. It's just life. Practice is life. There's no sort of grade or sort of tick box. I've got to level 2, got to level 3. It's not like that. It's part of you. It's like cleaning your teeth. Every day you clean your teeth and you shower. You never think, have I now cleaned my teeth for the last time? Are they fully clean? Never to be cleaned again. You just clean them again. It's like that with practice. You just keep going. There's no sort of judgment or sort of race. That's really hard for us because we tend to really push for expectations. So try to let go of that. And one huge way of doing that is to give your practice away. Give it away. Don't hold it. Give it away. That's what we do with the dedicating of the practice to all beings. Partly it's because we're trying to build compassion, but partly it's to let go of self-grasping. You're just giving it away. You're offering it. Offer it. What else? So when you're new, don't do long sessions. Do short ones when you're new. Just 5 or 10 minutes. I usually start people off with 5 minutes, and then after a week I say now start doing 10 minutes. Then after a month, maybe 15 minutes. It's not exactly like that week and month. It depends on the individual, when they feel comfortable. But don't do huge long sessions when you're new. Although, here's a useful tip. You might go to a center where they're doing a 1-hour meditation, and you might be new and you might think, well, how am I supposed to do that? You can do that because during that hour you can do little moments. You can do a few minutes of meditation and then just let go for a few minutes. You don't need to get up and walk around the room. You just sit there, but you just let your mind wander. And then you do another focused 2 or 3 minutes, and then you let go for 2 or 3 minutes. You can do it like that if you're new, and it helps you to maintain a whole session. But on your own at home, just do 10 minutes or 15 minutes to start with, and then expand it to 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, but it's about building it up. Any questions? Yes?
It's very essential because we often learn about the value of 2-3 minute meditations being quite sufficient throughout the day.
Oh, you mean just
3-minute meditation. Often do with King Notes.
No, that's not what Ken's talking about. What Ken's talking about is you're sitting and doing a session, and within that session you would do 2 minutes of very focused practice, and then you would rest for 2 minutes. And then you do another 2 minutes of very focused practice, and then you rest for 2 minutes. This is a Nyingma technique in the Nyingma tradition. Short periods repeated often. It's within a session. In a session. And what that means, I'll tell you in a minute. So what that means is, supposing you had a 1-hour session, it would be just 60 minutes of vague, kind of soupy meditation. Whereas this way, you would actually be doing 30 minutes of good meditation, split into chunks. Then throughout the day, we have micro moments, but they don't take 2 or 3 minutes. They are integrated into our daily life. Okay, I'm glad you asked that, because many people do teach this short thing, but it means within a session. Yeah. Yes?
I just wanted to find out, I'm actually quite surprised that I actually was more focused with my eyes open.
Well, that's great.
When I close my eyes, I just
Good. Well, we can make a TV commercial about this and you can be the presenter and say it works. It works. I'm really happy to hear
I
I
that.
wanted to ask, after all these years of meditating, does your mind ever still wander?
Of course. Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. Because we're not
So
trying...
it will
No,
always-
but that's not the point.
Okay.
It's not that, oh, you could meditate for 24 years and then you won't have a wandering mind. That's like going into a coma. That's not the point. I don't want to go into a coma. That's not the point. So the mind always wanders. But how you deal with it starts to change. And your awareness starts to change. And it's not really about how many years have you done it. Oh, you know, are you... I don't know. I've been a monk for 24 years, but I may be much worse at meditation than somebody who's been doing it for a month. It's very, very much to do with the individual. So there's no kind of like path where you can measure it and say, well, if you do it for this amount of years, this will happen or that will happen.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Good.
And then the second question is it important how you sit? I'm
Yes.
just thinking if you wake up at 2, 3 in the morning
Yes.
and you want to meditate,
Sure.
you literally
No.
have to sit up. Can I
Of
lay
course.
down and...
Absolutely.
that
In
would
those
be
kind of
okay?
situations, just be lying down.
So that would be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it's a very good thing to do. If you wake up sleepless, just lie there and just meditate a bit. Maybe do a body work, like focusing on the body, scanning through the body or something like that. Or breathing, whatever. But don't make yourself sit up. And it's quite good actually to... What I try and do is when I wake up in the morning, I try and make my first moment meditation, which means you're just lying there. You don't have to sit up. You just try and go into that state. And also try to do it last thing at night. It's a good thing to try because then you're training yourself to make meditation your default state, which is enormously helpful when we die.
But then you could close your eyes. I mean, at 2 in the morning, you're tired, but you're awake. Would that be okay? to
Yeah,
close
it's
your
fine.
eyes?
It's fine because you're using the meditation as a therapeutic tool for a particular problem, and then it's fine. Yeah. Anything else? Yes?
Some inspiration. I'm a health coach, and one of my clients was very extremely concerned about his health was really deteriorating. I said, well, please do something. You've got to learn how to de-stress. I saw him 3 months later, and everything had turned around. Reading everything. He was normal. No reason really to come to the session. And all he'd done in that 3 months, he started meditating.
Great.
Twice a day, 15 minutes a day.
Great.
And it just turned everything around.
Fantastic. That's very good. Anything else?
There's no money back guarantee on that on this course.
That's very good. Anything else? Okay, we have a little time before lunch. I want to talk now about integration. Integrating the practice into our daily life. So important. Many people forget to do this, which means they meditate very nicely in their shrine room, on the meditation cushion, and then they kind of leave their meditation on the cushion and then go off to work. It's not going to help. They're doing 15 minutes a day, or half an hour, or maybe 2 hours a day, but then the rest of the day they're not connecting with it. So they become like two people, the meditator and the non-meditator. It's like two strangers inside one body. The person who meditates and does it all nicely in the nice shrine room and does all the bells and smells and all that and incense and it's very nice and ritualized and they think they're doing it very beautifully, but then it doesn't actually carry into their life. So don't become two people like that. How do we do that? Is that we need to regularly switch on that awareness throughout the day. In small moments. Because otherwise it's not going to work. If you do, even if you did 3 hours of meditation a day, there are still 21 hours of distraction which outweigh the 3 hours of meditation. It won't work. The scales are all weighted wrong. On the other hand, even if you only did 10 minutes a day, or 15 minutes, but you integrated it throughout the day, it means you're never too far from your practice. And you're trying to make practice your default state. How to do this? Every so often, as regularly as you can, just a few moments of mindful connection. Feel the ground under your feet, be aware of your body, be aware of something. Just put yourself into the present moment. I often start people off with this process by telling them to choose 3 actions. Actually 2 is easier. Choose 2 actions, and for 30 days decide that whenever you're doing those 2 actions, you'll do them with awareness. Very simple actions that you do many times a day, such as cleaning your teeth, washing your hands, eating, walking, opening the door, walking up the stairs, just simple things. But what you do is you choose 2 of them and you decide, right, whenever I'm doing those 2 things, they are my awareness triggers. Just those 2 things. And every morning when you wake up, you remind yourself, when I'm doing these 2 things, don't change the 2 things, keep them the same for a month. When I'm doing those 2 things, I'll do them with awareness. Every morning, retake that commitment in your mind. Before you go to bed at night, review the day and ask yourself, how many times did I do it? Don't punish yourself, just be interested. Just be curious. Isn't it interesting? Did I do it? Did I not do it? So that through that daily commitment, you will start to be able to focus with awareness when those 2 things are happening. Now, how does it actually look? Well, you're washing your hands. Say washing your hands is one of them. There you are washing your hands. Instead of being distracted, you're totally present. You're feeling the hands moving, you're feeling the water, you're feeling the soap. You're not adding thoughts. You're not going into a mental commentary. You're not thinking, oh, there's soap, it smells nice, it reminds me of roses, my grandmother had roses in her garden. It's not like that, because that's a journey. You're going away. Thoughts block us from the reality. Thoughts are like a mist that prevent us seeing the reality. So just ignore those thoughts. You will go into the thoughts, but come back and use the body as the focus. You're just washing your hands with total awareness. Walking, eating, cooking, washing the dishes and ironing, those are horrible activities nobody likes doing. Do them with awareness and they change. It becomes practice. You want to do it. You look forward to doing the ironing because that's your mindfulness exercise. You're changing your focus that way. So anyway, choose 2 things and do them for a month. It takes 30 days to make a habit. So after the month is over, phase 2 is to widen this out to all activities. Because if it's only those 2 things, that's not great, is it? You want to step up. Those 2 things were your triggers, your pegs to hang your training on. Now you're widening it out. Try and do it every 20 minutes. Every 15 or 20 minutes, just try to generate moments of awareness. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are. Regularity. You won't manage it every 15 minutes, but that's the aim. You'll manage it once every 15 hours. But then it changes. It's training. It develops. Be very patient. But just get into the habit of doing this. And it doesn't take any time, because you're not stopping. There's 3 things you should not do when you do this training. Don't stop, don't slow down, and don't prolong. I want to explain these 3 points. Don't stop, don't slow down, and don't prolong. What I mean by don't stop is don't stop your activities to do the awareness, because then you're separating awareness from ordinary life. I know some people who set their watch to ping every 2 hours, and then they pause and they bow. Frankly, I think that's a bit weird. And also, you're telling yourself that you have to stop in order to be mindful.
Yeah.
So you're separating it from your life. You're telling yourself, I need to ring my bell, stop, and then I can do it. Mindfulness is in the stop. That's no good. You want to be just busy doing your life, whatever you're doing, and add the awareness to it. So that's what I mean by don't stop. The second instruction is don't slow down. What I mean by that is don't go into slow motion, because that's also taking yourself away from reality. You know, some people think that the idea of drinking mindfully means that you very carefully, kind of painfully, slowly, sort of, very kind of, and all graceful and balletic and, stroking the glass and slow motion. You're kind of going into an underwater state. And a friend of mine at the monastery, one of the nuns, she said she tried this once. She decided to be mindful all day. She said, I'll do a whole day of being mindful. And one of the visitors came up to her and asked her if she was okay. Because she looked so weird. She was going around in slow motion, looking miserable. And that's not the point. If you go into slow motion, then you're... I once went to another monastery in another tradition where I saw a monk cleaning a radiator incredibly slowly. And that was his mindfulness practice, and he was very, very slowly cleaning a radiator with a duster. And I thought, that's really beautiful, but not particularly useful, because you can't live like that. And if you're training yourself that mindfulness happens in slow motion, when does it ever happen in real life? So that's not so useful. Okay, so don't stop, don't slow down, and the third instruction is don't prolong. What I mean is don't stretch it out too long, because then it becomes oppressive. Like my friend at the monastery who was so miserable trying to force herself into a mindful state. Do it rather in small doses so that it becomes a joyful, happy place to go rather than this training that you have to force yourself. Make it into a place you want to visit. You want to go there. You don't want to force yourself. Don't do long stretches, do short stretches. So that's how it works with training, is you could start with a couple of triggers and then you could expand it into regular throughout the day many times. When you've become a little more comfortable with that, you could start pushing it a step further, which is to deliberately be mindful when you're stressed. But the only way to achieve this is to start with easy stress and learn how to be mindful when you're stressed in a way that you're not so stressed that you just freak out. So the easiest thing to do is to learn to be mindful whenever you're waiting for something. Whenever you're waiting for something, do this practice, because that is a kind of miniature stress. It's not huge, we're not freaking out, some people are, but generally it's kind of just a slight tension, and you can start to work with that, and that will train you for the bigger stress. Waiting is an incredibly powerful moment. In Tibetan Buddhism we call this bardo. Bardo means the intermediate period, and those intermediate periods are rich with possibility for training. This moment of waiting. Normally, whenever we're waiting for something, we don't take that time as a time in itself. We're waiting for the thing that's coming. Do you know what I mean? And we're waiting for something all day. There's always something going on. Either we're waiting for a bus, or waiting for a taxi, or standing in a queue, or waiting for a kettle to boil, or you might be waiting for this talk to be over. There's always waiting. Even tiny moments. You're in an office building, you press the button for the lift, you have to wait a few seconds for the lift to come. In those moments, we're kind of pushing forward with our energy. When's the lift going to come? Basically, we're stirring up cortisol. That's not good. Instead, you could just release and relax. Or you're stuck in traffic. I hear that traffic here is bad, so this is perfect opportunity. You only label the traffic as bad if you decide it's bad. It's actually your training. When next time you're stuck in traffic, you could think, great, now I can do that thing. I can do that method. So you actually feel good about being stuck in traffic. So you're sitting in the car, you're stuck in traffic, or you're waiting at the red light, and you, instead of pushing forward mentally, you just relax, release, be present, let your body just totally flop down into the car seat. You just relax. All your muscles are loose, your mind is loose, you're just present. And then you don't switch off, because you need to be aware still. What if the traffic starts moving? There is awareness involved in this. You're not switching off. Waiting. When you phone up a company and they put you on hold, and they play music and they say you're number 10 in the queue, that's a brilliant opportunity for training. Just be with that moment. When your internet slows down, when your computer crashes, when you're opening an email and it starts unloading very slowly, when that little egg timer turns upside down many times, when you're watching a movie on the internet and it starts freezing and then the little circle goes, just let go and use that. You're totally rewiring your brain when you do this, because normally our brain is wired to respond with tension whenever we're under pressure. you are now learning that pressure means release. Do you understand what I mean? You're changing your pathways of experience. It's very clever. Very, very, I'll come to questions in a minute. Very, very clever, because you are changing your reality. And let's face it, don't we all want to have lots of holidays and time off and just slob around doing nothing? Well, you're given that on a golden plate every time you're stuck in traffic. But we don't see it that way. We see it as my time is stolen, I'm late for work. But take it as time to just let go. It means your whole life becomes a holiday, because every time you have these moments, you can just release. It changes you physically, it changes you mentally, it turns you into a totally different person. It's really great. On a deeper level, this practice, well, first of all, let me say that what you're doing in this practice is training when you're waiting, so it means that you're learning to be calm and mindful in stress, and then when big stress happens, you're ready for it, because you've trained in that way. But on a deeper level, this practice teaches you to fall in love with reality, fall in love with your life. Because what happens when we're stuck in traffic or waiting on the phone is we go into a hatred mode, anger or frustration or rejecting. This way you're flipping it round and you're saying, actually, I welcome this. Next time you're stuck in traffic, your heart will open and you'll think, great, now I can do that method. So you're learning to, like Rinpoche in that dark tunnel with the urine and the graffiti, I go into that tunnel and I close down, I don't like it. He has developed the reflex of going into that tunnel and opening and enjoying. You're working against the grain. You're learning true happiness. Because true happiness is to be happy wherever you are.
Yep.
Not just when it's good times. Rinpoche once gave a talk in Samye Temple in which he gave a talk, and at the end of it he said, all I want for you is that you enjoy your lives. And then he said a few more things, and the funniest thing happened, because after the talk people were talking excitedly in the tea room and they're saying, wow, hasn't Rinpoche changed? He used to be so strict. And half of the people heard him say, just have a great time, enjoy your lives. And half of the people heard him say, I want you to enjoy your lives, which means even when you're suffering, embrace it. Some people blanked that part out of his talk. But that's actually what he meant. True enjoyment is to be relaxed and aware and happy whatever's going on. In this very clever method of relaxing in a traffic jam, you are achieving that. It's very interesting training. Meetings, work situations, when you're stuck, when you're waiting. Any questions? Yes.
When I'm doing something active, like showering, I can be aware, exactly what I'm washing. When I'm waiting, there's always that fighting. I don't want this to be happening. And I find if I, first of all, oh yes, okay, I'm feeling this, and then feel physically what I'm happening. So it seems to be two different things.
Well, the easiest way is to feel the ground under your feet.
Okay, so do I just not worry about registering any emotion?
That's Western psychology.
Okay.
And many people in the Dharma are obviously, we all grew up in the West, and we bring that Western psychological idea that we need to explore the content. Buddhism has zero interest in the content. We're interested in something much more exciting, which is the mind itself.
In the mindfulness, they keep saying, find out what you're feeling, and okay.
That's one of the problems in the mindfulness movement, is that it's turning into group therapy.
I wish you'd announce this loudly.
Good mindfulness teachers won't do that,
because
but
I think it's steering us badly.
It's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because what it's doing is it's making people solidify the content. And it's making people search for content so that they can use it in their practice. Rinpoche once described this as like digging in a bin, and the more you dig, the more rubbish you'll find.
Yeah.
And what I find is that very often people say that I'm in the present moment, but they don't know that they're grasping the present moment.
Yeah.
They're not just letting it play
Exactly.
out,
Grasping it and wanting it to be something.
or longer or whatever, but
So,
they
yeah.
not.
So, in terms of your question, this is very, very important and very brilliant that you asked this.
Sorry, we couldn't hear at the back. Do you mind just repeating the question?
Well, why don't you say it? Because you'll say it better than me.
Well, I said, I seem to notice a difference in my daily mindfulness practice. Say I'm showering, I can be aware of what I'm doing. But if I'm waiting, I'm not doing anything. So what I've been doing is focusing on how do I feel about this? Not feeling so great. And then I'll become aware of my body on the seat and my feet on the pedals. And my question was, should I focus on the emotion and recognize it, not get caught in it, but just say I'm feeling agitated?
So my answer was just be present. Maybe feel the ground under your feet. Be aware of your shoulders. You don't need to start exploring the content. And I think the big difference between Western psychology and Buddhism, in a kind of nutshell, is that Western psychology focuses a lot on content and Buddhism focuses on the container, the mind. What's the difference between that? Is that in Western psychology, one needs to explore the content, what is one's feeling, why is one feeling this way. Can be useful. If one's very traumatized, maybe one needs some kind of therapy or counseling. I'm not criticizing anything here, I'm just talking about the difference. And I'm basically saying the Buddhism path goes deeper, but that doesn't mean there's no place for the other path. However, one needs to know the difference. One looks at the content, why am I feeling like this? And there are a lot of dangers with that. One of them is that there's no belief in reincarnation, so you end up blaming your parents for everything. Where else do you look? Must be my parents' fault. The Buddhist idea is that they're just a symptom of our karma. They're not the cause, they're the symptom. It's much deeper to think that way. Also, with the idea of the content, I remember my aunt once described this to me as, in psychotherapy you have to rearrange the furniture in your house, emotionally, so to speak. You rearrange the furniture so that you won't bump into it. In Buddhism, you throw the furniture out the window. So, the idea here is that instead of needing to reorganize your content and understand it and resolve it, which, as I say, may have a place for some people, it's a valid approach for some people, but Buddhism goes deeper in that you don't look at the content, you look at how the mind interacts with the content. It doesn't matter what the content is, it's what's the mind doing with the content, and through that you're creating one key that can open every door. Through the Western model, you need a different key for each door. Through the Buddhist model, you understand the mind and how it works. Doesn't matter what the content is. You're actually working with attachment to the thoughts themselves. So that's the difference. And I think your question was brilliant because it sparked this particular subject. So thank you. Anything else? I hope this isn't getting too heavy. Is it all right? Okay. Yes?
What's the difference between being aware of the present moment
Yeah?
and grasping the present moment?
Well, that's like what Melanie was saying, is that people sometimes hold on to the present moment with their fingernails.
So what's the difference? How can
Well,
you
it just
tell?
means no tension. You're just being present. And the way to achieve this is small moments. If you do it for too long, you start trying to hang on to it, like hold on to that present moment. If you just bounce into it in small moments, you're just being. And also, a key point is to do this when you're ill, or when you're unhappy, or when you're depressed or in pain, because then you're learning to be with any present moment, not just the fun ones. That's really important.
So that's a present moment state. Present moment.
So it's about being with whatever is happening. So if you're in physical pain, for example, you could be with that mindfully, and it's just what it is. Pain is only a mental experience, it's not physical. This is something we do need to learn, is that pain is not in the body, it's in the mind. Otherwise corpses would feel pain.
And
If you
Panado wouldn't work.
Sorry?
Panado wouldn't work.
What's that?
Panado is
Aspirin.
yeah.
Oh, well, do you know how those drugs work?
Paracetamol.
But do you know how those drugs work?
It goes with
They take away the resistance. You relax. Those painkillers make you stop fighting the pain. You don't need, I mean, okay, I don't want to say stop taking painkillers. Some people are in severe pain, take them, but you actually would need less if you learn to just meditate on the pain without resistance. When we experience physical pain, we experience resistance to the pain. We experience a whole tightening up around the pain. Just experiencing the pain directly would be very different. I'm not promising it will go away, but your relationship with it would change. And even bigger than that is if you can turn it into love. You can think of the pain of all beings, and then it's not your pain anymore. The pain has become a universal experience of suffering that you are trying to liberate all beings. So your whole reality changes in those thoughts. Anything else? Any more questions? And then we'll stop for lunch. We've gone on too long. 1:30 is good for lunch, no? You guys are quite Spanish here, aren't you? In Spain they have lunch really late, it's like 2, 3. Is that what you guys do here as well? No. Okay. Are you vary? You're not rigid, you just go with the flow. That's brilliant. I've had such a great time. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll break now until it's 1:30. Let's have an hour and 15. So that's 2:30, 2:45. Does that work? And then we do a long session until 4. Is that good? Okay. Okay, so we'll break until 2:45. Let's say a prayer. Well, no, it's 1:30.
It's 1:30.
No. Let's say a prayer praying that any goodness we generated today may contribute to peace in the world and freedom for all beings. O sonam die tamche zipani tone nebe janam pamche chega na che bala dropaye sebe sole drowan shu